Hey, good morning, everybody. This is Justice's Waiting Room. This is a daily live podcast. We discuss news and politics and are live on YouTube and Twitch. You can find us by searching for Likely Alien. Now, every morning when we start the show, we listen to War.
Just apologize for what you did. Just apologize. No, Tony, no. The whole world is gonna know the truth. He's a damn hero, is what he is. I'm just getting started. Dead Man's Wire, rated R.
Let's go, boys. One thing I've noticed about football fans is they all talk like the
Did
players
anyone
actually hear them.
notice
Proud of you. Looking good. Keep it up. But when you have Geico
quietly
Insurance, you'll always
YouTube's
be
commer-
covered. They have top-notch customer service with people who really care.
YouTube's commercials can't be skipped anymore?
Anything for you, bud. Cool.
Interesting.
Yeah, I'm trying. Just pass the ball. Yeah, just pass. Okay. Pass it.
Good morning to my beautiful wife, Taylor.
It feels good to Geico.
All right. While I share the show. Good morning. Wonderful Wednesday. Justice's waiting room. Daily podcast discussing news and politics. Is live on Twitch and YouTube. Sharing the show here. Hashtag JWR. Free Palestine. Slava Ukraine every day. Don't cost me a thing. To me, it helps maintain my sanity. I don't want those bodies on my head, right? Or my heart. I don't want to be thinking like my decisions or lack thereof led to those people's deaths, right? That's one of the things people have asked, like, how do you get on here and do this every day? Well, I didn't vote for this, so I don't have to wear it. You know, it's like I kind of pointed out about climate change. It's gonna be fucking beautiful outside until it isn't. Okay, so we had kind of talked about. I hope that Donald Trump. What basically people have said, like, I hope the World Cup gets canceled. Well, 17,000 fans have canceled 2026 World Cup tickets amid boycotts over the U.S. political climate. That's significant. Now, you got to understand tons of games, tons of venues. I think a few countries involved in hosting the World Cup. So 17,000 people is not really that many, but it would more depend on who, as we all know. They'll host the World Cup with fucking three people there. Denmark's Rockwool says Russia has seized four of its factories. Reuters reporting Danish building materials company Rockwool said on Tuesday that Russia has taken control of the company's four factories in Russia and the company is no longer in control of its assets in the country. Rockwool's statement says that the factories will be deconsolidated and the net value of its businesses there will be written down, adding that their total equity accounted to about $546 million as of the end of the year. The company added it will defend its legal rights under the bilateral investment treaty between the countries, but added, "We are not optimistic about reversing the decision to place our Russian subsidiaries under forced external administration." Rockwool shares fell 8%. And that was after the seizure of two of them were reported. So I mean, they don't even want them back. And so Denmark's gonna deploy more troops to Greenland. So by the way, Russia instigating Denmark and the U.S. instigating Greenland pulls Denmark into Greenland and takes them away from being able to help Ukraine. So understand that Donald Trump beefing with all these other countries, especially ones that are linked to having issues with Russia, Donald Trump is effectively helping Russia. Another thing that Donald Trump also does. Hey, good morning, everybody. One of the things that this regime does is they'll agitate a country. Yeah, they'll agitate a country, and you're like, that doesn't help us. Venezuela, for example. I hope everyone understands. Okay, Nicolas Maduro got on fucking TV and said there's $100 trillion of fucking oil here or whatever. That has not been proven to be true. And so understand the only person that has said that and like made that is Nicolas Maduro. So the idea of us going in there and making a bunch of money off it's not very realistic. And here's how we know. There's already a U.S. oil company that's been in Venezuela forever. I want to say since like the 60s. And they've been operating at a loss. How is putting more companies in Venezuela? Is that just people see other people's, business name on their shirt and they get mad and they produce more oil or some shit? It's like they're stupid and they don't understand, right? So keep this in mind. When we left this show yesterday, I don't know about you all, but I was under the impression that 5 digits in people had been executed in Iran. The story that I think we talked about yesterday said 10K, maybe 12. Well, now Iran says, "Hey, we're gonna do quick trials and executions here." And again, for those of you that are horrified at the thought of like them just like executing people, the U.S. has promised to intervene when they go about doing what they do. So understand that Iran, by all accounts, is going to start executing the people that were protesting that they captured. And so, a lot of the talk has been about how come we're not talking about so and so. And remember, that's what they're used to. They're used to just sitting at the top of the hour and just soaking in all that sunlight. And I'm trying not to give him any, right? Because I don't want him seeing this shit going on and think, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to start rounding up and executing protesters, right? Because that's the kind of dumb shit this idiot's on. Yeah, that's kind of what I thought. So, one of the hallmarks of being real fucking bad at war is friendly fire. And so, we talk a lot about airplanes and space, and mostly this war has not been man on man, it's been arty and tanks. So there's a reason that it isn't being presented like you'd normally see it. Fixed bayonets, charge. Like, there ain't none of that shit going on. Okay? So here's Russians' air defense. Okay? Yeah, normally I say good morning to everybody, but when there's a whole bunch of people in here talking, right, I'm just going to say good morning, keep going, okay? So, the story I just shared, the reason that it's important is because Russia's own air defense system, a missile, hit an apartment building in Russia. I'm gonna stick a caveat in there and say your air defense missiles aren't supposed to hit ground targets. Your air defense missiles aren't supposed to hit ground targets in your own country. We're gonna go with that ain't gonna work, Bob. Just it's just not gonna work. Also, Kiev Independent reporting uh, that the Ukraine has destroyed a key Russian drone factory in Taganrog. Taganrog, come on. And again, I think that we are kind of underselling the story of yesterday, and that was that the U.S. used a plane, so the U.S. military used a plane that they painted to look like a civilian aircraft to destroy a boat. Um, that's fucking illegal. What the fuck are we doing? I just, it's like they know what all the rules are and they're just breaking them just to see what the fuck you do. It's like these are toddlers. Oh, what happens if I touch this? What happens if I touch that? Like, what? USA Today reporting Trump's Arctic Commissioner Thomas Dans. There will be meaningful U.S. action related to the Arctic island within weeks or months. That's. Oh, what the fuck? That isn't saying anything. Ronald Lauder. Don't forget that. Interesting. Interesting. As a reminder, you do not have to be at war for someone to have committed a war crime. Huh. Interesting. Story about Vladimir Putin here, per Bloomberg, saying Russia's allies complain Putin was nowhere when it mattered the most. And I'm really not happy with Bloomberg being one of the only websites that we use that I regularly, them and Snopes. I can't just like read the shit you write, but I can read everybody else's. How's that gonna work out? Reuters reporting China ended 2025 with a record $1.2 trillion surplus, despite Trump's tariffs. Yeah. Well, the regime in charge is breaking a bunch of rules, and then the regime in charge is forcing the powers that be to drag their feet. Um, so I know it feels awful because Donald Trump will lay an executive order, right? And because it's all typed up and fancy and it's all over the fucking internet, you're like, oh God, that shit's happening. And again, I just want to point out that when they throw an executive order, that doesn't mean anything. It's just words. It's like a memo uh, until you see an accompanying bill. Okay, and again, we like to point out what has he actually accomplished. He stopped producing the penny. He signed the Lake and Riley Act. And it appears he used U.S. Special Forces to rescue Nicolas Maduro, who is a dictator and an ally, and Venezuela is an ally to Russia. Russia is our enemy. Just want to make sure. Hey, that's not okay, right? Ursula von der Leyen said on Thursday there is a strong relationship between the EU and Greenland, and that Greenlanders can rely on the EU's support. I still can't get over that dude yesterday from what was he from NATO was like, yeah, if the U.S. attacks Greenland, it's the end of NATO. It's like, shut up! Don't say it out loud. Giving him fucking ideas. He didn't know that. Oh wow, check this shit out. Euro News reporting a whole ass country, Estonia, is banning Russians who fought in Ukraine from entering their country. I would too. They banned. The ministry estimates as many 1.5 million Russians have taken part in the full scale invasion. About half of them have served on the front line. Hey, I was kind of sad the last couple days because a lot of Ukrainians were without power, but energy workers have done the impossible. Power has been reconnected. Uh, about 45,000 people got electricity back. Hey, that's good. It's with an E, with an E, Zeke. But I'm with you. Estonia. I mean, we knew it was going to happen, but the regime has canceled meetings with Iranian officials and tells protesters that help is on the way. Uh, okay. Yeah, this is not going to go well. Remember, Donald Trump always chickens out. What a fuck a piece of shit, by the way. They've been dealing with this shit for weeks, right? Access to Elon Musk's Starlink internet service is now free in Iran. You know what I heard about Starlink access? So here's the rub, okay? If you just need internet service, you can just buy it from whatever. You can just buy it from Starlink. They have like a subscription service. Here's the ripoff though. What they do is they wait until an area has been devastated. Iran. They offer free internet service after they have been without it for a long time. And the rub is that it's free for now. But it doesn't appear that way. So you, having just been through a fucking disaster, you think, oh my God, I'll do anything to get back connected to the interwebs. Starlink is free. Oh my God, let me just sign up for fuck Elon, but whatever, I need internet. And what they don't realize is that they're signing up for as much as like $300 a month for fucking internet access. So it's not exactly a clean operation. Okay, it's a setup and it's a big rip off because I work with people that use Starlink and they don't even pay $100 a month for access. So I want to make sure that I stick this out there that my boss and two of my colleagues use Starlink and their monthly bill for internet is less than $100 a month. So it's particularly heinous, actually, when you're charging survivors of a disaster like a few hundred fucking bucks a month for internet access after they've just suffered a major disaster. And they'll do it, they'll pay for it. I didn't read the fine print. Gotta have access to the internet. Right? Fuck Elon Musk. Okay, as of 7 hours ago, maybe this makes me feel not nearly as bad. AP is saying 2,571 people have died in Iran. This is 10,000 less than I'd seen, and that's a lot. So hey, I'm not I'm not saying one way or the other, but I am saying there are conflicting reports on reputable news sites about the number of people that have died in Iran. Now, you know how I feel about it. If one person dies, it's a national security issue. If a bunch of people die, it's an international security issue. Hey, a bunch of people died. Oopsie. So, you just want to make sure we say, hey, I can see that people are going to end up wondering what the truth is here. The Swedish company Saab, that makes, we know them for making cars, okay? They want Canada to buy about 80 aircraft to fulfill their promise to add almost 13,000 jobs. Remember, here's what we know we don't do. We don't believe a fucking word Ayatollah Khomeini tells us. So if Ayatollah Khomeini is out here saying, oh, it was like a couple thousand people and a lot of it was outside influencers and shit like that, I'm not believing that. Right? Want to make sure you gotta be careful who you take your information in from. Uh, Donald Trump is sending in the idiots, so this story isn't about him. JD Vance and Marco Rubio are meeting with top diplomats from Greenland, Danish officials, to figure out why is the U.S. so obsessed with Greenland. And again, it's rare earth minerals. Okay. Rare earth minerals. And then I'm guessing there are like other resources. There aren't really problems to be solved by the United States controlling Greenland. We can build infrastructure, we can station troops, we can operate from Greenland almost at will as long as we recognize the sovereignty of Denmark and Greenland. So understand that the US taking over Greenland does not give it any ability that it doesn't already have. Ownership doesn't mean anything in this case. We're allies. If you just ask, they'll let you build a base there, put troops there, fight from there. What are you talking about? You want to secure it? Okay. You want some? You want rare earth minerals? You want to gather materials? You want to file for permit? What? There are ways to do it, right? It doesn't have to be. It's our land. Bah, bah, bah. No, you watched the movie Greenland and decided you wanted to build a bunker. Is that the real movie? Is that the real movie? I've not seen it. Now, ooh, I didn't know this. Russia also has oil operations in Venezuela. Did we already know that? That's crazy. This explains part of the reason why Russia's economy is so bad. Because, like we talked about, like there's only really one U.S. company in Venezuela. They've been operating at a loss forever. So Russia's ops in Venezuela can't be doing very well. Mm. Now the U.S. Uh, being a little too kind to people that we need to be keeping an eye on. So the U.S. has approved the sale of NVIDIA's advanced AI chips to China. Now, on this show, we're not like super pro AI, but that doesn't mean that these big companies aren't, and it doesn't mean that co- companies in foreign countries aren't clamoring to get a hold of the technology to see what its capabilities are. Hey, Al. Advanced AI chips, though, that just that sounds like a scam. What? Hundreds of gunshot eye injuries found in one Iranian hospital. They're shooting people in the fucking head. 400 eye injuries from gunshots in a single hospital? They're aiming at the head. Bob said, "I want to know about the empty oil tankers." Right? Here's an article. Volodymyr Zelensky talking about coordinated pressure fucking up about a fifth of 20% of Russia's shadow fleet. Yeah. So Greenland obviously taking their plea to the UK Parliament. And then Trump's envoy secretly met with Iran's exiled crown prince. So here's Axios reporting that the regime had private meetings with their effectively their leadership in exile, right? Yeah, one of the things that this regime has done is call other places shitholes, like London. And Reuters is reporting that, hey, London's actually getting safer, despite what this regime is saying. Jesus fucking Christ. Making it real not safe for fucking brown people around here. Reuters reporting that the U.S. has designated three Muslim Brotherhood chapters as global terrorists. The Egyptian, Lebanese, and Jordanian branches of the Muslim Brotherhood as global terrorists, citing in part what it called their support for the Palestinian militant group Hamas. I want to continue to point out, which needs to be pointed out in Reuters, Israel created Hamas. It's important to point this out. Benjamin Netanyahu, instrumental in creating Hamas. Do you see how Hamas is like a fucking boogeyman? Okay, just want to point that shit out. Remember, Hamas didn't exist. Israel created it. Holy shit. Okay, there's two stories back to back. Taiwan and the U.S. have launched joint production of 155 millimeter artillery shells. Okay. Ramping up arty production. Talking about sustained ammunition supply. Oof. Okay. And then here's a story from Yahoo News. Okay. A construction crane fell onto a moving train in Thailand and killed at least 32 people. Holy shit. So if you're wondering why we're not just focusing on the US and US news for the first half of our show, we really try not to. Try to focus on what's going on internationally. AP News reporting Iran has aired at least 97 coerced confessions from protesters, often after torture. Oh, there's no normal. There's no normal. U.S. civil rights icon Claudette Colvin has died at age 86. Claudette Colvin's refusal to give up her seat on a segregated bus in Alabama in 1955 was a key moment in the U.S. civil rights movement. Yeah. Remember, I tell you every day, control what you can control. Make sure you get 8 hours of sleep, drink water, eat right, exercise. Oh, wow. The Royal Canadian Mounted Police report says the Bishnoi gang, acting on behalf of the Indian government in Canada. Yeah, Bishnoi Crime Group, a violent criminal organization with an active, continually expanding presence in several countries, including Canada. Tired of seeing people torn apart, families separated, what the fuck? Yeah. It's fucking insane, right? And you know how we talked about the US approved the sale of these AI chips? China's customs agents are told that NVIDIA's H200 chips are not permitted. And again, Russia turned the internet off, Iran turned the internet off. In Uganda, an internet blackout has been ordered ahead of polls. President Yoweri Museveni is seeking to extend his 40-year rule. See how this might be problematic? I'll fuck you in power for 40 years. Nobody should be in power that long. So again, before Iran is attacked again by the US, here's Reuters reporting. They have warned neighboring countries if the US strikes us, we're striking their bases. So almost assuredly, if the US were to strike Iran, you can bet on American casualties abroad. That's how wars are started. BBC reporting. Prosecutors are seeking the death penalty for ex-South Korean President Yoon Suk Yeol will be handed a death sentence if he is found guilty over his botched attempt to impose martial law. A court in Seoul heard closing arguments in Yoon's trial in which he was accused of being the ringleader of an insurrection. The charge stems from Yoon's attempt in December 2024 to impose military rule in South Korea, an act that lasted just hours but plunged the country into political turmoil. He was later impeached by Parliament and detained to face a trial. Yoon has denied the charges against him, arguing that martial law was a symbolic gesture to draw public attention to the wrongdoings of the opposition party. Right, I did this so you would look at what the other guy's doing. Costa Rica's security director says a plot to assassinate its president has been uncovered. Rodrigo Chavez, ahead of elections. Citizens United, Al. We basically turned billionaires and corporations into entities that have more power than a person does. 2025 was the third warmest year on record. Droughts, hurricanes, and wildfires are becoming the new normal. When were the other two warmest years on record? Let's look at the article. Please tell me it's not 24 and 23. Oh, 3-year trend. The difference is that in 2023 and 2024 we had El Nino, which is it's normal for it to be warm, but that's not 2025. Wow. France has recorded more deaths than births in 2025 for the first time since World War II. Yeah, I want to point out the answer to my question when I was like, oh God, what were the other two hottest years on record? Please tell me it's like a century ago and then 2 centuries ago, and nope. It's the last 3 years. Hottest years on record. Now, it's understandable that 23 and 24 were warm because of the presence of El Nino, which is a weather system that pushes warm air up into, you know, like where we live and shit. Um, but this past year, you can't say that. In Taiwan, we talked about they have the lowest birth rate in the world. Who else had a low birth rate? Oh, in China, they increased the taxes and fees on contraception. Went fishing in the river instead of ice fishing, yeah. Okay. So the the UK government has dropped its plans for a mandatory digital ID to work. Um, this is a good thing, instead of forcing everybody to wear the mark of the beast. The UK is going to approve a mega Chinese embassy in London, despite objections. This is ugly. Check this shit out. An Israeli tank fired 3 shots from its main gun towards Spanish peacekeepers in Lebanon. Fortunately, no. This is written from the perspective of Ireland. An Israeli tank fired shells close to Spanish peacekeepers in southern Lebanon, and mortar illumination rounds were fired near Polish troops. That's an international incident away from a world war. Japan and South Korea We pointed out this picture yesterday. Japan and South Korea are strengthening their ties as China is using rhetoric they've used for a long time, talking about taking over Taiwan. Let let us barter for it. Israeli and Arab officials have privately suggested the U.S. hold off on striking Iran. Let us negotiate, right? Oh, I'm graying like a motherfucker. It don't bother me now. Al Jazeera is reporting that Iran is accusing foreign intelligence of being behind their protest movement. I would look at your exiled crown prince, but whatever. Do it your way. All right, we're about halfway through. Let me see if there's anything else. Remember, they restored power to 45,000 in Ukraine. Yay! But hundreds of thousands of households in Kiev, the capital city of Ukraine, are without power. And it's the cold part of the year. The military is refusing to go to war. That's why we're not on the ground in Venezuela. Remember, Al. Remember that I told you. The only person that is saying that Venezuela has a bunch of shit that we need is Nicolas Maduro. If there was $100 trillion worth of oil in fucking Venezuela, the U.S. would have been on that shit. Now, yesterday was my day off, but I still pay attention. Okay. Yesterday's big story is that the identities of ICE agents are being leaked onto the internet because of a huge data breach. This is wildly important. And people have asked, Jared, how do we make all this stop? Well, AOC will tell you. Okay? A range of impeachable offenses. The line has been crossed. I'll start when you are shooting protesters. Not even a protester, just a woman backing out of her fucking driveway. Okay? C-SPAN reporting. Okay? The prior article was about AOC talking about the president. This article is about Kristi Noem getting impeached by Robin Kelly. Yeah, I saw that. Impeach and remove. So people keep asking. U.S. citizens are being aggressively detained by Border Patrol while working at Target. Oh, yeah, they're going down. Remember, it would be different if every time ICE arrested someone, it turned out they were a violent criminal. But it just turns out they're arresting anyone that's brown and speaks Spanish. And you're going to miss a lot. So Kash Patel and his FBI are trying to smear Renee Good instead of properly investigating her murder. I used to work in a Target. You know what I could never figure out? You know what I could never figure out? There's always people in Target, but there's never anyone in there. Do you get what I'm saying? I worked in a Target. I worked in a Target. There's always someone wandering around in that bitch, but there's never anyone there. I worked there. I didn't work for Target. I worked for Radio Shack, so I worked in an aisle in a Target, helping people get new cell phones and hook their tablet up to Verizon and shit like that. But yeah, I never figure out how Target stayed in business. New Republic reporting DHS agents really don't want to be sent to Minneapolis anymore. So I want to point out that these bitches didn't even make it a fucking week before the trauma of their actions got to them to the point where they don't even want to go back. Federal agents in Minnesota aren't happy with the backlash they're receiving. Crank up the backlash. Ken Klippenstein reports the Department of Homeland Security is having trouble finding agents to send to Minneapolis for Operation Metro Surge. We do have personnel, but they just don't want to go. Democrats are wondering, is ICE hiring January 6ers? I think we're going to find out. Now, keep in mind, all of their data just got leaked yesterday. So we're going to find out the fucking hard way. We're going to do that too. Okay? What? Why would there be a day of reckoning? This man is so goddamn dumb. Sometimes I read a story and I'm like, wait, what? Oh, okay. You've heard about who ICE is recruiting. The truth is far worse. I'm the proof. I'm not saying I'm being recruited by ICE, but in the last week, I've seen more ICE ads than I should have ever. From mostly like watching football, but watching YouTube on my phone and TikTok, I've seen ads for ICE in the last week that I've never. Crush asked, "Where's Anonymous?" I occasionally post their interesting stuff. Um, there's probably more going on that we don't know about, right? Because they're mostly hackers. What is TPS? I don't know what TPS is. I feel ignorant. Temporary protected status. Jesus. The U.S. is ending temporary protected status for Somali nationals and sent a March 17th deadline for them to leave the country, Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem said. The move came without an official announcement from the Department of Homeland Security or a notice in the Federal Registry on Tuesday morning. The latter is generally required officially to terminate temporary protective status. So understand, all bark, no bite. Didn't do the paperwork. Shit doesn't count. Okay? ICE wants to make Minneapolis cower in fear, and the opposite is happening. Oh, they're definitely being suppressed the shit out of. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. For residents of a stretch of South Minneapolis, last week's shooting by law enforcement stirred a deep-seated trauma. It is a tender moment in Minnesota where the Twin Cities have been forever marked by twin tragedies, killings by law enforcement officials not quite 6 blocks and 6 years apart. Nicole Good and George Floyd were killed 6 blocks apart. I didn't know that. Did you know that? Interesting. Very interesting. Um, I think we knew that there were a few Native American tribes that had contracts with ICE, and I said, at least that makes sense. At least it makes sense that someone who's indigenous to the United States does not want immigrants in the United States. It, they're canceling their agreements with ICE. Okay? So keep in mind that they were going to build facilities for ICE. You know how I felt like Donald Trump has leaked troop movement and how that's really careless and stupid and that's how you get people killed? He's also leaking market sensitive data. Okay? So when you're an elected official, one of the things that, it's readily apparent to the lay person that elected officials are privy to information that we are not privy to and are making investment decisions based on information that is not public. And so you could see how it's fucking problematic on both ends for the president to be profiting off of the information that they're privy to as a nature of being the fucking president. And again, same thought process for elected officials. They sit in meetings that ain't on C-SPAN. They get access to information that you and I don't know about. And they're making investment decisions based on that. Whole ass contracts are signed for things years down the road in closed door meetings. Don't you think they should be forbidden from forbade? They should be forbade from investing while you're an elected official? Because you won a popularity contest and it let you get access to meetings? Yeah. Remember how I told you I've seen on TikTok and YouTube TV, I've seen ICE ads? ICE has a new recruitment strategy. It's terrifying. They're spending $100 million and they're targeting social media. By the way, a big ad spend on social media is worthless. It's worthless. It's about writing a commercial, being good at it. Yesterday, the big news was, make sure this was yesterday, yeah. The big news, the Civil Rights Division walked out at the Department of Justice because they refused to investigate Renee Good. And then, yesterday I think I saw someone when the show ended was like, hey, Jack Smith is going to give public testimony. Here's a link from the New Republic. Okay, talking about how Jack Smith will finally get a chance to testify on January 22nd. So, hey, that's not far away. Smith will testify before the House Judiciary Committee as part of its investigation into Donald Trump's efforts to overturn the 2020 election. In December, he testified for 8 hours in a closed door hearing before a committee. Smith, who was appointed to oversee Trump's alleged mishandling of classified documents and efforts to overturn the 2020 presidential election, has long sought to testify in a public hearing, but was rebuffed by Republicans in favor of one behind closed doors. Of course they would. In that hearing, Smith said that he stood by his prosecution of Trump. So there. New York Mag reporting that Democrats have significantly improved odds to win the Senate. I would say that you've won every goddamn election since the 2024 presidential election. You better fucking win. Does there have to be a minimum of people who will be there for a quorum for him to be heard? I'm pretty sure that's going to be on C-SPAN. Here's NBC News reporting, if you didn't like that source. Okay. Try not to play any favorites. Sometimes when it's an important enough story, I'll post a few links to it in the chat. That way, there is no invisible hand here. Okay. Congress has agreed to fund Voice of America. God damn it, Washington Post. Well, I'm not sharing it, but anyway. They look like they're gonna die. Marco Rubio looks like shit, Dougie. Marco Rubio says the U.S. does not know where 137 people are that they sent out of the country using the Alien Enemies Act. They straight up, remember those people that they sent to El Salvador, I'm guessing? Deported to El Salvador. Yep. So remember, and remember, what follows the breaking of law are charges. So Marco Rubio's saying, we don't know where these people are that we deported to El Salvador. Charges. And remember, Donald Trump is doing all of this shit to distract you from the Epstein files. And everything that he is doing is to delay the Epstein files. All of this is to delay the release of the Epstein files. The House Republican majority, remember the mandate? In less than 18 months, that mandate is down to nothing. Rubio will be behind bars. Yeah. I'm saying some of these people are going to be tried internationally. Or they're going to try to escape. Okay. Mike Johnson is now only able to afford 2 defections on any party line vote if all members are present. So understand, basically, in order for the Republican Party to get anything passed, everybody has to show up and vote together. You cannot fuck this up for the next 3 years. It is a continuation of a dynamic that has plagued House Republicans since President Trump took office in 2025. A majority so small it gives outsized power to any one member who wants to buck the party. It makes governing difficult, if not impossible. So understand they cooked the books and the guy on top's a fucking moron, so they didn't cook them enough. They didn't have enough of a mandate. They aren't able to get anything passed. Okay? After the resignation last year of Representative President Marjorie Taylor Greene and the sudden death last week of Doug LaMalfa, current breakdown is 218 to 213. Can only afford 2 defections and still pass legislation. So they're not passing shit. Check this shit out. Robert McNamara provided false information to Congress and the public regarding the Gulf of Tonkin incidents to justify escalation, and still never got punished. Well, I mean, if you are sitting around still thinking about exacting justice on someone, it's wild. That's wild work. I think in the opposite frame. I actually think that justice is being doled out pretty frequently. We just, again, we have taken justice to mean that the bad guy dies. And I know that it's a tough pill to swallow. In our eyes, there will be no justice until the bad guy dies. But otherwise, you got to commit the crime in order to get charged. You can't just talk about it anymore. MS Now talking about socialism. Yeah, it's just taken so long. Yep. Most of what will happen posthumous, especially to Donald Trump. So just so you know, Donald Trump talking about capping interest on credit cards is a fool's errand. Those credit card companies are major supporters of Donald Trump, and there's no way that's all air. If he were to do that, do you know how much money credit card companies lose? Enough that they would go out of business. Somebody's shuttering their doors. Okay? I mean, a lot of people that are talking about accountability. The president of the Oglala Sioux tribe in South Dakota said 3 of 4 tribal members detained by ICE agents in Minneapolis last week have been transferred to an ICE facility and called for their immediate release. Remember, not the brightest crowns in the fucking box, right? Remember, I told you. All these ICE agents, not the smartest people. Yeah, I agree. I think justice is coming. Yeah, I think a lot about the USAID cuts and how shit like that will never happen again. I'm willing to bet you money. And then Kiefer Sutherland has been arrested and accused of assaulting a rideshare driver. Just like randomly, yep. By the way, gold and silver have hit historic highs amid geopolitical strains. Gold and silver. Silver has gone up 24% in the last 2 weeks. It's like the Bitcoin thing again. China made a bet decades ago because it couldn't compete with the US on cars. That bet is paying off big. The streets of Beijing have changed dramatically within just a few years. The noisy, smelly thrum of traffic has been replaced by an unusual quiet for a megacity. Roads course with a stream of mostly electric vehicles. This is not just a Beijing phenomenon. For those arriving in many of China's major cities from countries dominated by gas guzzlers, the quiet will be their first impression. It's like stepping into the future. It reminds me, what's that video game called? Death Stranding. Anybody ever played that? It's like you're walking around cities and there's nobody there but the robots. That's the least I. It's like post-apocalyptic. Mojaba Tarshiz, a former footballer for Tractor SC, and his wife were shot dead by Iranian security forces during ongoing protests in Iran. No one is safe. I've been saying it my whole life. Things will probably never change until they disrupt a high-level sporting event in the United States. We love our football and our basketball and our baseball and our hockey. Ooh. It's what you love to see. Saks Global has filed for bankruptcy after Neiman Marcus's takeover leads to financial collapse. That's what you love to see. I like to see mega corporations go out of business. I want to see your business do well. To a degree. I want to see your business do well. Because once you dream up an IPO, it's going to change you. Once people are invested, they're going to want to push you to do things you don't want to do. They're going to want you to do things they want to do. I don't know if you guys saw yesterday Donald Trump pointing at and flipping off somebody when he was at a Ford plant in Michigan yesterday, but their name was TJ Sabula, a 40-year-old UAW worker at a Ford plant in Dearborn. He has told the Washington Post, no regrets. He's been suspended pending an investigation, but he ain't getting punished for that. Yeah, he ain't getting fired for that. Might get a little talking to. Hey, when the president's here, maybe don't yell pedophile protector. The Texas Observer reporting. The ICE prosecutor who runs a racist Twitter account returns to Dallas Immigration Court. James Rodden, Rodden, an Immigration and Customs Enforcement Assistant Chief Counsel, who acts as a prosecutor for ICE in an immigration court in Dallas. Yeah. TJ yelled pedophile protector at Donald Trump while Donald Trump was at a Ford plant, and he heard it and he pointed at him and he flipped him off. Donald Trump flipped off. The President of the United States flipped off a fucking factory worker. No offense to a unionized fucking factory worker, but he basically the people that he hates. The people that he hates. He hates the common man, the worker. hmm ICE is using tear gas and pepper spray in Minneapolis. Oh yeah. Mm. Somebody said his GoFundMe is going to get taken down though. I saw where it was like a $500,000. He did something wrong. They're not gonna. There's no way he gets that. NPR News. People that have been detained are telling their stories, especially obviously the one people that have been released. I bit my tongue and it hurts. Justice Department. Here's why. Anybody wondered why are people resigning from the Civil Rights Division at the Department of Justice? Because the DOJ says it sees no basis for any criminal rights investigation into the killing of Renee Good. What? What do you mean? But yeah, I want to point this out again. Okay? The personal information of 4,500 ICE and Border Patrol agents has been leaked online. That would be a great GoFundMe. You build a GoFundMe until Trump dies, and you're like, we're trying to raise as much money as we can so that when that motherfucker dies, we can help as many people as we can. That would be insane. That would be a good idea. The discount grocer Aldi has planned to open 180 additional stores this year. Yeah, that's what I was saying, babe. It looks like he got suspended. They're going to investigate, but he didn't get fired. And that's what a lot of people were thinking like, "Oh, you yelled that at the president. They're going to get instantly fired." Like, no, 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 no. He's part of a union. He'll get a talking to. Somebody was talking about empty oil tankers. Here's Reuters reporting. The U.S. has filed for warrants to seize dozens more Venezuelan linked oil tankers. U.S. military Coast Guard have seized 5 vessels in recent weeks in international waters that were either carrying Venezuelan oil or have done so in the past. Debs asked, the state of Minnesota can do their own investigation. I think that's what the FBI was trying to do, was get in the way and obstruct the state of Minnesota from investigating the murder of Renee Good. Claudette Colvin has died? Yes, Zeke, exactly right. Claudette Colvin is a civil rights activist. Historical figure. Remember, I think we talked about this, where GM was backing away from EV, from electric vehicles, to the tune of about $6 billion. So when a car company says we ain't making fucking electric cars because that shit's a fad, it's time to stop buying them fucking cars. Okay? Because one of the things that people don't realize, what do you think happens when, for example, a company loses billions of dollars and doesn't produce electric vehicles? I'll tell you, the electric cars that they make are going to be shitty, and they cause people to have accidents and die, and it perpetuates the negative news cycle for EVs. And GM is like, we're right to not have EVs. Look, these EVs blow up and shit. And instead, they don't realize, well, our divestment or our loss, our billions of dollars that we lost from not investing in electric vehicles is our fault. Instead, they'll say, no, it's EVs are shite, right? It was just somebody had to do it. I think we talked about this before about Timothy Busfield. He was in a TV show that ran for years, the Fox series called The Cleaning Lady. Okay, he turned himself in for CSAM accusations. A program that brought mental health professionals to rural Oklahoma schools is looking for new funding. So if anybody is wondering what can we invest in, an Oklahoma University-based federally funded program to get more mental health professionals in rural Oklahoma schools has seen its funding and end prematurely, and it's searching for new funding sources to keep the mission going. It's called Prime. What's happening with those shitty robots? Yeah. They're trying to make human beings stupid. Oh, yesterday was a deadline for the Smithsonian to give thousands of documents to the White House. Determine whether they express improper ideology. So this is what the president's doing. This is some Hitler shit. Having the Smithsonian tell him what they're going to do so that he can tell them whether it's wrong or not before they put it out there. All right. And I know people are going to want to talk about the Clintons refusing to testify. Okay? Hey, Gupta. Welcome. Bill and Hillary Clinton refusing to testify throws a cog in the wheel. It makes them non-compliant. And the last thing that you want, people that you want to be on your side, is for them to be compliant. I want them to not show up and say, oh, we were busy. Schedule another one. Because Donald Trump relies on being the first to the table. He wants to be able to say, oh, they testified and they said blah 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 and they were blah blah blah. He needed that. He needed them to testify so he had something to talk about. And when they didn't, it fucked him up. Because now he's missing shit. He doesn't know. And what if they decided to do that in secret, behind closed doors, and didn't tell anyone? See, the problem is that Donald Trump is worried about how shit plays. He's trying to contort the truth to fit his narrative, and he needed them to testify yesterday. And the fact that they didn't is seen as a slight against Donald Trump. Yeah, I did see Donald Trump fucking glitch out yesterday. Well, yeah, I thought he was dying. Hey, Scott Adams died. Isn't he a piece of shit? No. Was Scott Adams, the Dilbert creator, Trumper, vocal supporter of Donald Trump? Yeah, Donald Trump. I mean, my wife was showing it to me. She was like, "Oh my God, look at Donald Trump," and it was like at the beginning of him talking, and he was like, "I want to say, if you want me, it sounded like he had something in his throat, maybe, maybe, but he like jerked around and made loud noises, and then he just like it was like in his he clocked in. Here's Don, and you were just like, what the fuck? I honestly I thought he was dying on his feet. When I saw it, I was like, oh, there it goes. It's not. That's how he's gonna die. I hope he dies standing at a podium doing his thing. They barred a Palestinian author from a festival in Australia, and they ended up canceling that. End up canceling a writers festival. So good for that. What's it called? What's it called? The Adelaide Festival Board. And see what happened is they went to ban a Palestinian writer just for just for being Palestinian. Trying to see if there's anything else here. NPR reporting the EPA is changing how it considers the costs and benefits of air pollution. Yeah. It's fucking insane to think about. Everybody wants to watch that man die. And there's people have no fucking reservations of that either. Hey, be careful. If you have an iPhone, Google and Apple are working together to bring more AI features to the iPhone. I've disabled that on my phone. Want to make sure to tell you all, like, hey, if there are AI features on your phone, you can disable those. When you search for stuff on the internet, the way I think about it is if I know about the subject and I recognize the information as accurate, an AI summary is fine. But if you're researching a topic that you don't know much about and you read the summary, remember that I told you, hey, AI is wrong all the time. And if you don't have already extensive knowledge of a subject and mostly you're just looking for a visual written aid, which is mostly what I'm looking for. I can remember stuff, but it's better if I see it and it's written down, right? Unless you know a subject that well, you should not be using the AI summary on a Google search. And it's not like this isn't a slight upon you personally. This is just saying like, hey, if it's a subject that you don't know much about, there's a high risk that that information is inaccurate, and you're better off trying to find a news source or three that are reputable, that have produced a story about whatever it is you're looking for. Okay. Uh, We start the show on war and end on Eat the Rich. He said that's why I buy Asian. Right, Zeke? A little bit of Eat the Rich. A little bit of Y'allbot. This weather's crazy, right? Multiple crashes reported DuPage County, Illinois, as a snow squall has hit the region. That's northwest Indiana, northeast Illinois, southwest Michigan, southeast Wisconsin. Looking at the map of the United States, hey, for the first time in a while, the left third of the United States is clear. No moisture on the west coast. Very little. I lied. Very little. Now, once you get into like eastern Montana and Wyoming, into the Dakotas, and there is freezing rain, I'm pretty sure. And then, really, you can see that there is snow in northern Illinois, northern Indiana, Michigan, Wisconsin. There's also a rainstorm in Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, Georgia, North and South Carolina, in Tennessee and Kentucky and Ohio, in the Virginias, up into New York. Okay, so really the right half of the country is going through it today. There's even cold and moisture in Florida. So what is the clear? Yeah, freezing rain. Is that what that is in Florida? The color is the same on the map in Florida as in New York and Pennsylvania, and so I think it's gonna be real cold on the right half of the country. So anyway, it looks like the weather is gonna get more intense over the course of the day. So keep your head on a swivel. No, I'm not a weatherman. So when you hear what I'm talking about the weather, you should still have a handle on your local weather. Yeah, that's what it looked like on that map.